family, how you guys doing? Welcome to Phie.Love Intuitive Conversations. I hope you guys are good. Yeah. If you like my content, please do like, share, and subscribe. And yeah, if there's any negativity, if there's any hate, please do keep that on your side of the street, okay? Won't be acknowledged. So, family, in this video, I'm being guided by Spirit to briefly and basically, most basic way, talk about self-governance. What do you mean, Phie? So, Spirit would like us to take some time to consider, and I know it's not something that people generally sit and think about in their everyday lives when they're really engulfed in the outside world, in their outside experience. But yeah, in this video, there's a call for us to sit down and take some time to really consider what our position is. Where do you stand, right? Exclusively, individually. Where do you stand? What is your position around your beliefs and ideas, around self-governance? What are your beliefs when someone says to you or asks you to consider your reliance on system governance? What do you believe is governing your mental? In this realm, in this third dimensional realm, as physical beings, humans, we have two options, right? And the spectrum of duality the class of duality with regards to conscience governance is the spectrum between system governance and self-governance, right? Where would you say that you reside on the spectrum of conscience governance? How far and entrenched would you say that you are into the side of the system governance? And if you were to consider your self-governance, where would you think that how close to the side of the spectrum with regards to self-governance do you think you would reside? What does self-governance mean to you? What do you include in your perspective and your consideration when you consider the idea of self-governance? Is it limited strictly to, your ideas of government, the ones who govern your mental, right? Because that's what they exist for, government. Generally, the truth is in our faces. The truth has to always be visible to us. It's the law of this realm, right? So they call it government because their role is to govern our mental, right? When you think about system governance, is your perspective limited to the governing you receive through government and whatever those systems are? Do you include the system constructs of society, right? Things that make up your perspective of society and right and wrong, and your family dynamics, your friendship dynamics, your work dynamics. All of these are part of the system governance, right? The system constructs that have been created to manage you, created to manage your perspective, created to have you dependent on, to believe that that's what you need to depend on to be able to exist and move through this realm of reality, right? Now, if you think about that, where also have the certain illusions of fear, right? Fear-based illusions that have been imposed onto your perspective by way of engaging in the system governing construct, where have, when you take time to consider it, where do you, and think about it and ask yourself the questions, what comes to your awareness when you consider where the where fear-based illusions have also been seeded into you or come as part and parcel to the constructs of the system and society that you haven't, that you don't realize are actually limitations to your perspective and understanding and exercising of your own self-governance, right? Anything in between, anything closer to the middle of system and self-governance on the spectrum is lost, right? You can either be more towards the self-governing side of the spectrum, which means that you're also led and tapped in and being governed by the higher realm and higher authority and higher energy, right? Or you are further within towards the system governing, you're further within to the system governance side of the spectrum, which means that you're governed by everything that has been put together and constructed for you in the outside world and the physical world that has molded and created your understanding of reality and how you believe your life needs to play out, right? What is right, what's wrong, what you're supposed to see as the direction and the way to move through your life. It's a lot. But also, as you ascend in consciousness, the more you ascend, the more you start releasing and moving away from the side of the spectrum of system governance, right? You start releasing, you start awakening, and you start, overcoming and dissolving certain beliefs and fears and limitations you have that come part and parcel to keeping certain ideas and constructs of society and belief systems in place. You start recognizing more and more that the system construct only it survives, it perseveres as long as you're afraid to release and move out of the boundaries of a system, be it a family system, be it a friendship system, be it a job system, be it whatever the system is. It's different manifestations of different systems within the entire system governing construct, right? The more you overcome the fear, the more you become comfortable in releasing the belief and releasing the border to keeping a certain system going, right? the more you move towards self-governance, the more you start aligning with your higher guidance, the more you start being led by your own soul blueprint and the higher energy. The choice is always there, but the fear-based illusions have you believing that the system governance is the only choice you have. There's a choice in everything. It's a world of duality. It's a reality of duality, right? And your own awareness will be what limits you. Your awareness or lack thereof will be what limits you in understanding and having view and having view and perspective of your choices and of the different areas and classes of duality that exist, and your choice to exist in either side of duality. The system needs you to believe. For it to work, it needs you to believe that it's your only choice. But also, it's a scary thing when you start realizing that, oh my goodness, like, if I start releasing all those things, then where am I? What's left for me? Where does life go? How does life unfold? What do I depend on? Because right now, I'm unconscious. Right now, I'm reliant, I'm dependent on the guidance of what's been laid out for me within the constructs of system governance, right? Whatever's been laid out for me, taught to me on how to manage my mind, how to manage my emotions, how to engage and understand family dynamics, how to feel, how to think, how to move, how to reason, what's right, what's wrong, this is good, this is bad. It's all been laid out for me. It's all there, right? And everybody around me is comfortable in it because that's what the experience has been molded to be on the outside, to be followed, right? Now, if I start releasing that more and more, what is there for me? That's a scary place to be. But what happens is, once you start releasing that, naturally, you start moving into self-governance, and naturally, you start falling into the natural energy that is, the natural energy that is present there for everybody to engage in, right? To align to and have guide them. System governance invests a lot in keeping your energy, your focus, your fear, your everything, keeping you focused and engulfed in it, so that you don't pay attention to the energy, so that you reject the energy and the higher realm impressions and guidance that are part of the other part of the spectrum, right? The self-governing part of the spectrum, where you then decide to follow the guidance from within, follow the guidance that comes in intuitively and that also gets impressed onto you from the higher realms and the higher levels of consciousness that exist, and the other the other energies that exist in the unseen realms, right? Just because it's unseen and just because it's invisible doesn't mean it's not there. Okay, so where do you reside? What is your position around self-governance? What does self-governance mean to you? If you were someone to say that I govern myself, what would that mean? How do you interpret that in your internal experience? It's not something that you need to, broadcast to the world. It's about you, you becoming awakened and aware to yourself. You understanding where your main energy focus is. You understanding your limitations. You recognizing, how you're actually imposing limitation onto yourself by what you choose to allow to govern you. What is dictating your decisions? What fears? What worries? What insecurities? All of those things have been layered and programmed into you as ways to keep you in line and within the borders of the constructs of the system that you exist in. Right? In the 3D world, in the 3D world, the system construct can only reach your ego and your personality aspect. It can't reach the soul and the higher conscience aspect of you, right? When it comes to the soul and your higher self, all of that starts becoming more apparent and starts taking more priority in your perspective and your reasoning and whatever is influencing you when your conscience starts moving into the fourth and fifth dimensional realm. But again, I've done some videos in the past that speak broadly about the ascension process that we're going through. I will tag them below, and it might also just give a little more perspective into what we're talking about here today. Okay, add a little bit more consideration, maybe trigger a few more ideas when you consider your ideas around self-governance and what it means to you. Okay. So, and also maybe while you're at it, consider duality. Consider how your awareness around duality in this realm how do you allow it to where do you allow it to apply in the way you manage your life? If you exist in one aspect of duality, in a certain class of duality on one side of the spectrum, what limitations and what perspectives and ideas and programmings do you have within yourself that might be restricting you from also maybe moving into a different side of the spectrum within a certain class of duality, right? The system will have you believing that you just have to exist in one space, in one area, where they can manage it, where they can control it. Some things they can't control. Okay. And it also, they invest a lot of money, time, and energy into trying to keep things under control, because if they were to ever stop, the natural balancing of the energy and universe that they keep trying to keep so far in one spectrum of things, imbalanced on one side of things, on the excess of whatever the lower vibrational part of duality is, the moment they stop investing, the moment they stop imposing, the moment they stop trying to control, the moment they stop programming, everything will just move back into balance. And people would just naturally move into their higher guidance, move into the spectrum of higher consciousness and higher self-authority, higher authority and governance, right? So it's a lot to think about, it's a lot to consider. It's always a little bit of a challenge for me to keep it as minimal and basic. I want to always go big, but I understand that it's a lot to digest and a lot to think about, and can be intimidating. And sometimes, these topics, these spiritual things, when you're not ready to take them in, when you don't resonate yet, and when you can't fully grasp or perceive or understand how to apply it to your perspective, or allow it, be open enough to allow it to expand or open up a pathway within your perception, it can become frustrating, and you just want to switch it off and go away, go somewhere else, go figure something else out, because it doesn't resonate, it doesn't make sense, right? So I understand that. Anyway, I'm gonna leave it there, family. I hope it's resonated, and I hope it's given you something to think about, and just have maybe trigger you into reconsidering yourself and the little things that you can engage in, and the little things that you can awaken to moving more into a space where you're less dependent and less reliant on the different levels and aspects of the system governance, and awaken you to the different levels of fear and illusion that have been also imposed on people to keep them locked in the system governance, and open yourself up to something new over time, moving yourself into more of a place where you're more self-governing over your mental, over your emotions, over your body, over your spirituality, over what it is you allow yourself to be bound to in the system world, and what you recognize that you can actually unbind yourself from in every single level of it, whether it be, within the family systems, relationship systems, government, banking, or whatever it is, finance, wherever these things have you bound mentally and even physically, and under illusions that if you don't abide and stay within the lines, stay within the borders, that it's chaos and all hell's gonna break loose, right? Because they train you from a young age, once the system intervenes, right? As a child, they train you from a young age to see anything that isn't non-linear as chaotic, and to have unsettling responses to all of it, to feel anxious, to feel ungrounded, and the moment you start tapping out of that linear way, of being binded to that linear way of being and thinking, you start actually learning how to maneuver yourself in a world and in a perspective and in a way and experience of your reality that isn't linear, and that is able to include more than just a linear perspective of whatever it is you might be engaging in, looking for absolute in everything, right? But let me just stop now. I'm going into too many things. Okay, let's see what the book has to say, and I'll pull a card from Ascendant Masters today. Yeah, and let's see what the cards say. Taurian Virtue. Okay. Spirit, may I please have one card to support our conversation? Or give somebody who's watching our video a nudge in a specific direction, okay? I got meditate and trust. Okay. So it's funny, meditate came out today because I had some time sitting and thinking, and Spirit brought to my mind so when we meditate, right? I'm just trying to bring it down, ground it. When we meditate, why meditation is so important is because when we meditate, we tap out of the system flow for a moment, and we actually ascend. So when you tap out of the experience for a moment, you ascend in perspective a little bit. You ascend out of the system timeline just for a bit, which is why, some people meditate for years and years and years. I've been a meditator for many years, but just meditating regularly, right? You increase the amount of time that you start, unaligning yourself to the system timeline, to the system or the experience, the timeline of the experience on the outside. You might not consciously recognize or realize it, but simply tapping out and going within and moving into a place of meditation shifts you every single time a little more out of it, to the point that you start moving closer and closer and closer into tapping in to your higher timeline, right? And not being so stuck and focused on the detail and the slow moving energy of the system experience that most people are engulfed in. So when I get meditate and trust, Spirit is saying spend some time meditating, spend some time tapping yourself out and thinking about self-governance. Think about where the idea of self-governance has you afraid, okay? Denial can also just be fear, okay? Has you afraid, and learn to trust yourself. That's one thing you need, is to be able to trust yourself and your higher guidance when you start moving into self-governance and moving away from the system construct and the system governance, or the system governing construct, whatever you want to call it, right? Being the thing that dictates how you move, where you go, what you do, and what your reality is and isn't. Okay? So take some time to meditate and learn to trust when you start moving into a place actively moving into a reality of self-governance, which means you're moving into a reality that no longer is so dependent on the dictates and guidance and the bindings of the system on the outside, right? I'm going to just read on trust. Okay, that's what I'm feeling, to read on trust. And then I'll wrap up and close out the video. Let's see. Oops. Okay, I got it. The book says, you can trust the situation you're inquiring about. The solid foundation of your situation gives it a trustworthy basis. Keep purifying your motivations so that they're completely about love and service, to elevate the energy and experiences even further. So trust yourself. Trust your own gut. Trust your own decision making, trust your own guidance. Sometimes when it's, scary, just lean into it. You don't lean into it, you just run back to what you know, right? Because it's too unsteady. It's too, change comes with instability for some time until you figure things out and you settle in. Learn to get comfortable in darkness. Learn to be comfortable in not understanding for some time while you start learning how to understand while you're in a place of not understanding. There's a reason people are programmed to be afraid of uncertainty, to be afraid of not knowing, to be afraid of what they've programmed into you as unstable, as chaotic. Because releasing that means that you have to be able to be strong mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually enough to muscle through the uncertainty until you find your grounding, your way, and your certainty, and find your stability in self-governance without feeling like you need to fall back, right? It's a choice. But once you start choosing self-governance, once you start awakening to the choices and the options you have, generally you can't go back. Your spirit, your soul won't allow you to. Additional meanings to this card. The person you're inquiring about is trustworthy. Trust that your prayers are being answered, even if you don't have evidence. You're on the right path. Trust your gut feelings and intuitions, okay? Moving into self-governance, you're not alone. Like I said, you move into the higher realm authority, your higher guidance. So your path is then impressioned onto you. It's the complete opposite. The system of it, the way of moving through it, the way of doing it, the way of engaging it is completely opposite and different and requiring trust out of you. Requires patience, requires everything that the system programs you and teaches you not to have, right? There's a reason they keep your nervous system shut. There's a reason they do everything in their power to keep you distracted and disregarding and invalidating your non-physical experience. But again, that's something I'll get into in another video, okay? Anyway, family, I will see you in the next video, okay? If it's resonated, like, share, subscribe, okay?